Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with the Family Collective, yes, helping people worldwide. And we're here with Diane Arnold, who's from Charleston, South Carolina. Presently, I think she's away, but she's a licensed professional counselor and specializes in mental health, relationships. And again, the name of her company, thefamilycollective.co, is helping so many people in so many places. So welcome back today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Physically not so well, but
Oh,
okay
what's
overall.
going on?
Well, I found out Monday that I need to have a double hernia surgery. I do a lot of heavy lifting appliances to clean the kitchen. I'm crazy like that with my two kids. Then I got carpal tunnel and I got tendonitis, arthritis from all the cleaning and overdoing. I went to the doctor Tuesday, got a cortisone shot, have to start PT. So physically, I'm not doing well. So I don't want to lie and say I'm doing well. I am, but it's just really making me realize there's more of that thing that's missing called self-care. And I
Yeah.
do for everyone. And I'm now suffering, but I need to change my ways. And that's a
Yep.
whole nother issue. But
Yep. No,
but
I'm with
trust. Wait, isn't trust our topic?
you. Yeah.
I don't trust many people and I don't have a good circle of trust. So I feel like I'm alone a lot. So I have issues with trust. Good topic
Yeah.
for today. Great.
Okay. So let's talk about it. And, we may need to go into 2 sessions with this one because it may take a while to kind of put it together, but you're not the only person who struggles with trust. It's if you've ever been burned before, it's not easy to dip your toe back in sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
Right. But, and I'd ask you this, and I would ask anybody who's listening, can you describe a time when you did feel trust with someone, and what about that was good?
You asking me personally, or am I supposed to
Yeah.
think this in my head?
Yeah.
Okay, trust. I trusted like probably one, two. Trusted. I don't say. I'm trying to think. No, and I've trusted like a teacher, like in high school. I've trusted
That's cool.
my best friend. No, that's probably one of the only people I could say that I fully trusted throughout my life. She grew up next door to me when she was 4. I was 4. She was 5. Now she still lives close to me. She's got 2 older kids, but I call her. She's the only one I could trust to talk to. I can't trust my own sister this way. I can't trust anyone else in my family this way. I couldn't trust my own mother this way. It's Melissa. You're right. I do have someone that I do trust, and it's her.
So what is it about that? So I'm just kind of asking that in
Sure.
general, but you can answer that, what is it about that relationship that feels good?
Understanding, no pressure,
So they don't feel like they
no
judge you.
judgment.
Yeah, okay. Like you can come to them with anything,
Anything and everything.
and I think like a lot of times it feels like they're on your team,
Yeah.
right? So even though you've done something horrifically stupid and you come to them and you want to talk about it, they're on your team. They may not agree with what you did or what you said, or a decision you made, but they've got your back, right?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would 100% agree. But when I ask the opposite of that, if you can think of a time, or if, like I said, if anybody out there can think of time, that you did feel mistrust or betrayed, what made that feel bad?
There's so many times. My gosh. Even
What?
recently, what is it? I feel horrible, but I also feel I knew it. Like, okay, I'm used to this, like to the point where it's okay, but it's not
Yeah,
okay. But you
it's not.
kind of get numb to it.
Yeah, you're like you can't let people in that far, right?
Never do. Yeah.
So I think it boils down, at least for me, to, there's seems to be like a lack of understanding. And what I like, they didn't get what I needed. They didn't get, what was important to me, or worse yet, they ran over that. you know, yeah, they didn't think about me.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of what it feels like. And one of the things that I would like to talk about today is a lot of us say what you and I have just said, Jill, is like, okay, I don't trust that person. But then when I think about naming why they're not trustworthy, I can't quite put it into words. It's like this big concept, you know? So at the Family Collective, one of the things that I've taught on, one of the things we do well is in the nonprofit is talk about relationships, you know, how to, not just how to build them, but you know, how to restore them and how to walk healthy in them. And so with this topic, with trust, I think it's important for us to know what's the anatomy of trust. What in the world, you know, are the dynamics of that? So I know which cog is off.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You know, when you go back and you look at trust, it's a central part of all human relationships. You know, from the moment we're brought into this world with a parent, you know,
As a child, especially. Yeah. That's
yeah.
trust. That's all you know. That's all you.
That's what we're introduced to, is that concept of trust. And, you know, every person we meet, every place we go, even with our faith, we face that significant of, can I trust this word? Can I trust this is going to help or hurt? And a lot of people, and you might be one of them, I have been there in my life, can associate that word with pain more than, you know, gratefulness, more than good memories, you know, and it should be good.
Yeah.
Right. It should be, you know, somebody's, like we said, like with your friend Melissa, somebody's got my back. Someone's always going to be there for me.
Yeah.
Right. So with that confusion, you know, we have to be honest that there's time we've all tried our hardest to protect ourselves from receiving, you know, pain, hurt, and betrayal again, right? And we develop a self-defense mechanism where we just have to fortify ourselves. You know, I always think build a fort, you know, realize that we've put up a wall because it hasn't been 100% safe out there.
Total walls. Absolutely. That's what we do. And then you become numb or just kind of.
You live on the inside.
Yeah.
Of the fort. That's what I always say. We live on the inside of the fort, knowing we're living in there and knowing that it might be scary outside of there. And even more importantly, I think almost every one of us knows that we have to tiptoe out in order to, you know, walk really whole in relationships. Right? And that's the scary part. There's an Old Testament word. When I looked up the word trust, I thought it was interesting. I'm gonna probably murder it, but it's batach. Okay. And it means to feel careless. And I was like, whoa, that is so opposite than most people feel. You know, that's what trust should be. When you completely trust someone, that's, you know, when you're talking about Melissa, that's that fearless, you know, carelessness that you have with that person. You don't have to be self-protective, right? Yeah. There's a gentleman named Eric Erickson, and he was a well-known psychoanalyst, and he was known for something called his 8 stages of social emotional development, which are pretty interesting. You know, for people out there, if you're interested to look them up. But his theory was that men, or men and women had to satisfy each stage before moving on to the next stage. Like you could potentially get stuck in a stage and then not do the other stages of development very well, because I would say walking with a limp, basically, right? And that first stage of development that begins in infancy is called basic trust versus basic mistrust.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say there are a lot of people that get, I would call it, I keep calling it a limp that early on. I learned very early on not to trust even my parents. And they develop basic mistrust. Right there, like, I am going to go through life not really putting myself out there. Or we've said this before in other broadcasts, not thinking that, I'm okay, they're okay. Right? So I can just, and I know that there are times in my life when I do think this way, where, I believe the best about someone's behavior. Even when it looks bad to me, I believe the best. And that's the whole point of I'm okay, they're okay.
Okay.
I'm good, they're good. Yeah. So they've made a move that didn't look very trustworthy. But when I'm kind of walking in a healthy sense of trust, I'm going to go, oh, okay, well, they had a bad day. Rather than, or, oh, okay, they had a bad day, and the next time I'm with them, I'm going to talk with them about this. Rather than I'm going to go back behind my wall. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure does.
And it's where we want to get, right?
Yeah.
Where we want to get. And that's why I talked about that. Brene Brown talks about that anatomy of trust. So I've got to know what's off with my trust meter. All right. So what are some symptoms of mistrust? I mean, I'm going to just read some classic symptoms. You may or may not have these, but difficulty getting close to others, rapid, intense relationships that end quickly as soon as this goes bad, right? Mm-hmm. In our mind, constant thoughts of spouse or partner cheating on them. Sometimes they'll have unrealistic expectations of others. Issues being vulnerable. We talked about that.
Yeah. Strong
urges to try to be in control of anyone and anything. And that's so I won't get hurt, suspicious thoughts and potentially high levels of anxiety. And I would say, if you're out there and you're going, oh my gosh, I have all those, do not be discouraged. That's why we're talking. We want to take steps that we can learn how to trust.
Yeah.
Even if it's for the first time. All right. So where do some of these crazy trust issues come from? So
childhood.
I was going to say, talk with me. What do you think? Childhood. Okay. What in childhood?
Well, for me personally, my parents' own fighting issues give me trust issues, which I know. Yeah, but learned behavior around you, or what's the word?
You what? Said what? Said again?
Learned behavior. You watch other people's patterns of behavior.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what you're saying is you didn't see them love well, their affection.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So that's number 2 on the list. Lack of love, affection, or attention from parents and caregivers. So yes, that's pretty normal for us to think, okay, parents will often say, I don't love your mom or dad anymore, but I love you. Can you imagine a kid's going to go, oh yeah, I trust that. Right? I just watched that fall apart. Right? So sadly, divorces can cause, trust issues in children for that very reason. They don't believe that, that they will be loved. If my mom or dad could stop loving someone else, can they stop loving me?
Yeah.
Right. And, as a child gets older, that, that understanding, can get better, but little children, don't really know how to perceive that very well.
Yeah.
Another big one is when someone loses a significant person, it's hard because the bottom falls out, a friend, a spouse, who do I trust anymore? Can I even trust God? Right? Adoption can cause issues of feeling abandonment or mistrust.
Yeah.
Definitely abuse. Definitely addictions. We've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, affairs. But what this all boils down to is I get afraid that I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And those trust issues dictate how I'm going to respond to others.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're going to maybe potentially protect our heart. We talked about that from, going forward. In my training, I was taught trust is the result of trustworthy actions. And I would say, if you are listening out there, that is 100% true.
Yeah.
You're missing on trustworthy actions from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not providing trustworthy actions, someone else is not going to be able to trust you.
Yeah.
So the obvious question is, what's a trustworthy action?
True.
Right. So John Gottman, who's done a bunch of clinical research, and he's usually does marriages, but he does a lot of relationship work, says the two components in that description is one person doing a trustworthy action and the other person recognizing that it's a trustworthy action. Yep. Both are important to rebuild trust. Right? For instance, if I came over to your house, I borrowed your blender and I didn't return it. And then I came to your house and I borrowed a cake pan and I didn't return it.
Yeah.
Then your food processor and I didn't return it. What would you tell me if I wanted you to borrow your coffee maker? Right? That's a trustworthy. I've not been trustworthy in my actions, So what research is trying to tell us is understand what trust is so I know how to build trust. So I'm going to talk about a little bit today about the research of Brene Brown and John Gottman. And what they said is trust is built in the small, insignificant moments of our life, not the huge ones. And I think most of us, or at least I do, I don't know about you, Jill, you remember the big ones. But trust is built, when I go back to your example of Melissa,
yes,
in the little things, right? It's built in those small moments, and we kind of call them penny jar moments. You can dump a penny jar out in one action and you lose everything. And in order to rebuild, it takes putting those pennies in one at a time.
Yeah.
Right? If you've ever seen someone struggle with sobriety, it's like that. If they fall off the wagon, it's like they start all over again. Right?
It's true.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting, when people look at research, they said things like, I trust my boss because they asked me how I was feeling. I trust my neighbors because my kids were going through something, they brought me a meal. You know, the number one thing, Jill, that people said builds trust. What do you think that is?
The bill of trust?
What that builds trust?
Huh. Well, that you can rely on someone. The what builds trust is, it's like actions speak louder than words. Like they have to trust to me builds trust. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Seeing is believing. Like it's one of those
Yeah.
like hatched
Yeah, yeah.
to me. That's yeah. I have to see it to believe it. I have to try trusting someone with someone. And then and if it goes well and I trust them, then I could trust again. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. The thing that showed up in research, that thing that you're talking about, the builds, was showing up at someone's funeral.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, if you'd lost someone and someone took the time, which I would have like never come up with that. But that's what showed up in research is the number one things that helps build trust in you is that they would take time to mourn with you, you know, in hard feelings. I was like, wow, okay. So I remember that. That's an important thing to remember.
That is.
But here's what Brene Brown tells us, and this was really important because, you know, I struggle with this. I think a lot of people do. I trust somebody because they'll ask for help when they need it.
Yeah.
Meaning they are vulnerable enough to say they need help.
Yeah.
So how many of us out there are better at giving help than asking for help?
Yeah. True.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really want to get that vulnerable with somebody. And
yeah.
Because it's hard. And it's it is actually one of those small penny jar moments that you're talking about.
Yeah.
John Gottman gives an example that's so powerful. I love this. He said he was lying in bed one night and he had 10 pages left of his murder mystery and he had a strong feeling he knew who the killer was and he needed to finish his book. We've all been there, right? So he said, I didn't even want to get up and brush my teeth, but I knew I should. So he was in a hurry. He gets up, he gets into the bathroom, and his wife is sitting in the bathroom. And she's brushing her hair, and he can see the look in her eyes. You know, you can just picture it. She's like, oh, you know, something's wrong, right? And most of us have faced that very same moment. Exactly what you said, Jill. My first thought is just keep walking. Don't make eye contact because I will have to stop. Right? And it's no different than when your phone rings and you see a name on there and you go, oh yeah, no, not today.
Yeah, right.
I can't do this, right? Yeah, right. And that's exactly it. It's those moments of trust with someone.
So important. It really is. Yeah.
Because we would want them to be.
But we're out of time. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Wow. It happens.
Okay. We started a little late.
Yes.
So, all right. So, what we want to do the next time we're together is start up from here and talk about those things that create the anatomy of trust. What we said is, you know, what exactly do I need to do to understand, right? You know, what's off in a trusting relationship and how I can help make it better. So what are those penny jar moments? So you can find this actually entire teaching at thefamilycollective.co or reach out to us at info@thefamilycollective.co. And if you can't wait, go find it. It's out there. And thank you, Jill. You've been very helpful.
Ditto. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon. And whatever time it is, we'll figure it out. Thank you.
We'll figure it out next time. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jill.
Sarah. Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.